Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Seema, and I would like to welcome you all to the webinar week on behalf of Oxford University Press, Pakistan. The title of today's webinar is Engaging Children in Virtual Classrooms with STEM. Let us now proceed with the session. The session will be facilitated by Raheel Isa. Raheel Isa is an electrical and electronic engineer with honors from the University of Liverpool. He is passionate about science, math, ecology, and technology. He has many years of experience developing courses and teaching maths and science along with STEM at Robotics Lab, Pakistan Space Science Education Center, and Huck Academy. He is focused on development-based teaching strategies which are scalable and adaptable. He has lots of experience in vastly varied industries. He has taught many educators on methods of engaging students and teaching STEM and mathematics. In his spare time, he focuses on technological innovations, process optimization, and automation technologies. Over to you, Raheel.
Hello, I'm Raheel Isa. Thank you, Seema, for that introduction. So today we're going to be talking about engaging children in virtual classrooms. And I think we all have had quite a lot of problems with online education in these past few weeks. Hope everyone is keeping safe at home. Hope everyone is all fine. And hope everyone is keeping their sanity, because it is quite difficult, no doubt. So now I've heard this so many times that our students are just not engaged in these virtual classrooms. And in fact, somebody even once told me that their kid was, on the session, on the online session, on the Zoom call, but at the same time, they had another tab open on which they were playing Minecraft. So how do we make sure that they're actually engaged? It's actually not as difficult as one might think. It can be a lot of fun to do. You can make classes a lot of fun just with simple tricks. Okay? But here's what we're going to start with today. I hope you guys can see my presentation. We're going to sit and listen to a lecture, okay? You guys are going to listen to me lecture you on and on. And I'm going to be sharing a YouTube video so you guys can watch it with a 6-second delay. And I'm also going to read an entire document to you, completely, verbatim, like no change whatsoever. So, bored yet? Want to leave? Luckily, I'm joking. So those are things that absolutely nobody wants to see, right? Think about it. Would you want to see that? Would you want to sit around and actually watch that? These are the don'ts of classes. What do you think the do's are of classes? I get asked this question a lot. And we have to make sure that our sessions are actually, properly, they're done properly, because if we don't, students will not be engaged. So here are some important points for a good online classroom. First things first, you need to have good internet. I know that can be a hard ask, but it is possible these days with having multiple backups. You have 4G as well as your regular internet, and some providers are going to conk out at the last moment. Obviously, this does mean you need to have electricity at all times, which is, it's kind of hard to do unless you have a laptop and you have a 3G device. Then you can probably manage it. Your voice should be clear and audible. So if the students cannot hear you, if they can't understand what you're saying, they're obviously not going to be able to, keep up with the class. So one thing that you could actually do to address the problems of internet connection is you could record your session and you could make it available for your students later on. Now, the framing of your video should be good, and obviously that is dependent on the situation. Now, if I just want to show you a slideshow, then you don't really need to frame the video, because you can just share the slideshow and everybody can see the slideshow, right? But if you want to show something on a camera, then you probably need to make sure that the video is everything on the camera, everything you want to be visible is visible. So you need to make sure that the rules of the online class are clear. So if the students don't know the rules, then they're going to keep breaking the rules that you have in your head. Let's say you've thought that students should not be interrupting you, but you have never told them that they shouldn't be interrupting you. So if you tell them from the very start, hey, don't interrupt me, then they're not going to interrupt you. And even if they do interrupt you, you can allow that occasionally, but enforce that when it's actually needed. You can enforce your rules. One thing that I can't stress enough is that anybody who is creating an online session, anybody who's teaching, should be respectful and they should be entertaining. If they're not respecting their students, the students will not respect them. If they're not entertaining, if they're not happy, if they're always in a weird mood, then that does rub off on the students, and the students can tell. They can always see that the teacher is not feeling nice, the teacher is in a foul mood. They're not going to be encouraged by that. They want something that is encapsulating, something that will grab their attention. And just think back to when you were students, and just think of all the teachers you love, and think of all the teachers I don't want to say the word hate, I want to say the word don't like. So the teachers that you really liked and really loved, those are the teachers that you probably learned the most from. And the teachers that you didn't like, you probably were too busy disliking them than actually learning from them. So you will definitely not learn from somebody you dislike, right? I think that's something that's really important to remember. Okay, so people you should remember are these guys. You saw that image pop up, and this one right here. These people are actually, they're doing something that nobody else would, right? I mean, they don't have access to a fancy camera stand. They don't have access to a laptop or a computer. They're using their cell phones, and they're hanging them off the chair and the wall and the fan, and they're actually getting their work done, and they're just in the classroom. So props to people like that. Things to avoid. Now, I don't think most people know this, but if you show students a YouTube video in class, that's kind of a waste of your class. And same goes for an online class. So if you assign it as a previous homework, then you're applying flipped classroom techniques. You're letting them research for the class before coming to the class. And that's a great idea, because suddenly they're far more engaged in the class, because it's like, they have something to lose. They have something to show as well. So it's a great technique to actually get them to be more interested, right? You don't want long, boring lectures. You will need to have some lecturing, but you need to make it more engaging and more happening, right? You want to avoid too many concepts. This is something that, a lot of teachers do fall into this little trap. Students do have a very small attention span, and these days it's even worse. And I can't tell you the number of stories I've heard where, oh, my kid has like no attention span, and there was a time when people used to just be taking their kids to doctors for that, but it's not the case. You don't need that all the time. You just have to make sure that there's not too much stuff for the student to learn. It's just, if you take one concept and you expand on it, that's great. If you give too many concepts and they're going to fall behind, they're not going to learn. Yeah. Same thing kind of applies here. Fast pace. If you go way too fast, if you just talk really quickly, somebody's going to fall behind. Yeah. And as I said earlier, it does apply to conventional classrooms. So when it comes to online education, we really have to rethink it. We really have to rethink the education system, and it won't be done overnight. The best thing we can do right now is we can just understand the best practices and apply them in our situation. That is one way to move forward. It stops us from being stagnated, right? And life is really difficult right now, but we still do need to work as hard as we can. I mean, take a look at Microsoft. They are working harder than any other company that I've seen. Yeah, sure, they're a multi-billion dollar company, but there's daily updates to Microsoft Teams, which is what we're using right now. Windows, Xbox, they're really understanding. They appreciate this, the opportunity that this has provided them, this pandemic situation, and they're using it to learn and grow rather than letting it make them fall down. So everybody should consider that every obstacle is an opportunity. Okay. So now let's just get into the concepts of instruction, right? So types of instruction. I talk about this a lot, and I feel like everybody should know. The first one we've already covered, right? Capture students' interests. I hope you guys, will figure out how to by the end of this session. And second one is exploration activities. So people ask me, all of this, most of this seems teacher-centric, but actually, engagement is something that the teacher does, right? But when it comes to exploration, that's where the student comes in. And then explanation, once again, everybody believes that has to be done by the teacher, but I don't agree with that. I think that the students should explain what they've learned after their exploration, right? And once that happens, basically, the teacher should elaborate on those points, and the teacher should talk about what went wrong and what went right, and fix any issues that happen. So elaboration is teacher-centric, but it can also be made student-centric by having different teaching strategies. So you can use jigsaws. You can ask one student to teach a bunch of others, right? Or you can use other things like that. Finally, everybody's favorite, evaluate. Now, when it comes to evaluation, we don't want to talk about just giving a test. We want to evaluate their concepts and proficiency with tasks and questions, rather than just give them a piece of paper and say, okay, answer these 5 questions, or here's a MCQ that I developed. It doesn't always work. It needs to be thought-provoking, and it needs to actually really pull in from the students' understanding, their exploration, and the teacher's elaboration, right? Here's something that I absolutely love. It's a quote from John Dewey. The educator's part is in the enterprise of education is to furnish the environment which stimulates responses and directs the learner's course. What that tells me is that the student is a learner. The student is the one who's actually doing the learning, and the educator, the teacher, they are not there to teach. They're there to facilitate that learning. They're there to direct the student, right? And I also want to share a second quote by John Dewey. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. And there's so many times that people are talking about, oh, this person is a lifelong learner. But I think everybody is a lifelong learner, and everybody should be a lifelong learner, because education is life itself. All right, let's move on to everyone's favorite, Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so there's always remembering, then there's understanding, application, and analysis, and evaluation, right? Now, I wonder if you guys can read everything that's written over here, right? So in remembering, can the student recall or remember the information? If you can't read it, right, and it's very hard to read, you definitely should not be using this sort of stuff in online classrooms. Make sure that your text is big, make sure that it's visible. So I know that this and these big words are visible, but I do know that these small words will be very difficult to read, especially if your internet is a bit slow and your video quality is well. So you need to make sure that you address all those possible issues, right? Now, let's talk about the 4 C's of 21st century skills. There's critical thinking, there's communication, there's collaboration, and creativity. Let's just delve a bit deeper into them. Critical thinking is all about solving problems, and communicating it's a really important skill. And some would argue it's not a 21st century skill, but it is something that needs to be taught and needs to be learned, actually, not taught. Right? Collaboration, really important, and ties into communication. and creation, being a creator of high quality work. We'll get into that later as well. Okay, so here are a few more skills, literacy skills, information and technology. So information and technology have been separated on purpose right now. People think that knowing information technology is a skill. They'd be right, yes, but no, that would just be knowing how to use technology. Information is a separate skill, and in information, it's about how to extract information from, well, all the strange sources that are available on the internet, and the not internet, whatever that is, and media. So I'd say media skills are more to do with creation, right? Let's talk a bit about the life skills. Flexibility. So flexibility or agility is something that many companies talk about, many people talk about, many even CEOs talk about, and it's something that's really essential for people, and it goes against the concept of efficiency. So when you're flexible, you're unlike a machine. You are able to adapt to every situation, and if you have these skills back here, flexibility can most likely come naturally. Leadership is it's a really big ask, and not everybody's a leader. Some people are born followers, and sometimes it's actually important to be a good follower, but even that takes leadership. So it's a strange concept, and not everybody is able to do it, but everybody has a little bit of it. It can be learned, no doubt. It's mostly to do with confidence. Initiatives. People should take initiatives. It shows that they're willing to actually go further. Productivity and social. So productivity ties into creativity, and being social ties into communication and collaboration. Right. I wonder how many of you know what the Socratic method is. What is the Socratic method? What is science? What is inquiry? What is learning? What are open-ended questions? Yes, this is in fact, this slide is using the Socratic method with open-ended questions. So the Socratic method is a way of teaching without actually giving the information or all the information to the learner. It's about directing them with questions. Science is, well, it's a way of looking at things, I'd say. Inquiry, it's asking questions, right? Once again, it does tie into Socratic method, but it's slightly different. Learning, well, that's a big chapter that I could talk for a week on that. But to put it simply, learning is taking information or taking data and producing information from it. Open-ended questions allow people to really think and delve deep into things. So I love saying this to people. I love asking them, what is the difference between science and messing around? So I'll give you guys like a few seconds to think about an answer. Thought about one yet? Writing things down. So if you write things down, that's science. If you don't write it down, you're just messing around. Seriously, scientists are just messing around, but they're writing it down, so it's science. Okay. What is STEM? I think a lot of you know about STEM. Maybe it's used a bit as a buzzword these days, but it's actually a pretty useful thing. I want you guys to think about how useful and how it could be useful. So let's imagine we're having a math or a science class, right? So you want to use science because you want to use STEM because it's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Right? And STEM is actually a way of educating or learning by using your hands, or using your using kinesthetic learning, basically. And it's really important when it comes to engaging students. So when whenever it's time to engage somebody, if you give them a task to do with their hands, they're going to be far more engaged than if you ask them to sit and listen. So I remember somebody was talking to me about John Dewey, once again, John Dewey. And he was looking for furniture for his classroom. And he said, I can't find any furniture for classroom. Nobody makes furniture for classrooms. And the person who he was talking to said, what are you talking about? There's furniture available everywhere. And he said, yes, but all that furniture is designed to make students think, sit and listen. But that's not where learning happens, right? Little talk about forces in motion. Now, if I want to teach forces in motion, I could talk about what kind of forces there are. And you'd probably say, oh, there's push and there's pull, and there's the thing in between, which is a combination called friction, right? So then I can ask you how many of these forces you use every day, right? And you say, yes, I use all of them every day. And after this, I move on to some explanation of the equations and how to solve them, and then give some questions. But how about we just change that up today? How about we go for an activity? So let's make a balloon card, right? Here's what I'm going to do. You need these: a card, straws, skewers, bottle cap, scissors, tape, and balloon. Let me show you my setup right now. Right? So you'll need this sort of stuff. Okay. Let's start off with the piece of card. I want you to take the card and I want you to fold it down the center like a book. I hope you guys have card. If you don't, maybe I can, move slowly until you guys are able to find something. So here's my piece of card. Yes, hello. So I'm going to take this card and I'm just going to bend it down the middle, but down the length. Follow as I do. Okay. And I'm going to fold it kind of like a book, but not all the way. I'll just keep it so that it stays like this. Let's put that down for now. Okay. And now let's move back here. Now we need to add 2 holes. So for that, you guys have a sharp scissors. So I have these. Now you want to use them kind of like a drill machine. So make sure that the hole is, let me move my mouse, is close to the spine, but not too close. Make sure it's around here. Okay. So remember, when you're doing this, you want to be really careful, because what's going to happen if I did it like this, right? Kids, any kids watching, just be really careful of this. If I do this, my hand, right? I don't want that to happen, so just be really careful. You want to make sure that you always point stuff away from your hands. And here, you can start spinning the scissors. Okay? See that? Cool. The scissors out the other side. Can you see that? Okay, now you don't want to go too deep, because if you do, then you don't want to make the hole too big. Okay, just to check if the size of the hole is correct, grab one of your straws. I do hope you have a straw, and see if it passes through, but not too loose, right? It stays there, right? It's grippy. That's what you need. Okay, so we need to make 2 holes, one over here and one over here. Once again, carefully start drilling, right? It is that simple. Okay, once again, little test. Yeah, works fine. Okay, let's get back to our presentation. Okay. Now, I want you to just cut your one straw into 2 equal parts. Okay, I'm just going to keep this here for a while. Now, I'm going to use one of these straws. Let's say I'm going to use the pink one. Okay. First things first. It's a bendy straw. Okay. We don't need the belly bit. Just do this to one straw, not to all your straws. Okay. You still want to use the other straws. Yeah. So just I wonder if you guys can. So chop this from the bendy bit, remove that off, right? Now you have one big long piece of straw. I want you to find the middle of that straw, okay? And I want you to just cut that piece. So now you have two almost equal pieces of straw, okay? They don't have to be perfect, but they need to be there. Grab this guy again, okay? And now you can put the straws into the holes like so. Yeah. Okay. Now, how many of you have managed to do this? You can, well, make a noise for everybody to hear. I can't hear you right now, but you know, you guys can still make a noise and be happy that you've done something. So, what does this look like to everybody? I don't know. You know, it looks like some weird alien object. But to me, this looks like science. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So you should all have some skewers, okay, and you should be putting them through the straws. So let me switch back to my video. These skewers, okay. Do you have skewers? Put them into the straw. Now, do they spin freely? Yeah, they probably do. So you have one and you have two. Okay, that's great. Okay, let's move to the step after this. Okay, so let's attach the wheels now. Okay, the way to do that is, maybe I'll just keep that image on so you can see. Right? You can take your skewer and you can put the bottle cap. You can put the skewer through the bottle cap, but if you do it with the skewer, well, it's not going to work because the skewer is made of wood and the bottle cap is pretty solid, right? It's made of plastic. So once again, we have to ask our trusty friend, the scissor. Yes. So you take your bottle cap, okay, and once again, that's going to hurt. Don't do that. No. You want to make sure that you're really, really careful. In fact, if there's any kids out there, please call an adult and ask them to do this because it could hurt. So you want to keep the bottle cap down, right? You want to put the scissor open on it, right, somewhere in the middle, and you want to just poke a hole. And it's that simple, right? See that? So now I have a hole in the middle of my bottle cap. Right? In fact, I can take my skewer and pass it right through. There you go. Okay, you see that? It is going right through. So, you guys want to try doing that? Because I'm going to take this cap all the way to one side of this skewer. And then I'm going to put it in here through the straw, right? So that enough of the skewer is passing through the edge. Okay. Now, it's always fun to have different colored bottle caps. Now, I've already made holes in these, so it's easier. And go on, keep add another bottle cap. Oh, and just in case you guys were wondering, if the bottle cap hole gets too big, you don't need to throw it away. You could just continue to use it Like for example, this one is a bit too big, okay? And also you needn't even use a bottle cap. Anything round and plastic could work. If it's too big and this skewer is too loose inside, you could just simply take some tape and let's say, you know, ooh, wow, this tape is funky. Just cut off a tiny piece of tape. That's all you need, a small piece of tape. Stick it on that hole, right? If it's colorful, it looks nice. And then grab your skewer and ta-da! It's stuck. Look, no hands. Okay, so let's continue by finishing this off by connecting. It doesn't matter actually. It's faster this way. Yeah. I've got 2 wheels on. Let's put a couple more. I'm going to put my third wheel all the way through. Pass it through the straw. It's skinny. And now take the one that I fixed with tape. Click it on. And here we have a little car. Look, Ma, look what I made. Yep. So now you have a car. And I want you guys to see if it moves around. Okay. Don't run into stuff. Should probably move some stuff out of the way. Let's go to the next step. Oh, right. You could use Patafix, blue tack, or tape to fix the tire in place. Yeah, should have mentioned that earlier. Now I want you to give your car a push, okay? So go on, you can do that. Just give it a push, okay? Is it moving freely? Is it moving freely? Yeah. If it's scraping against the floor or it's not going in a straight line, how are you going to fix that? How will you fix that? Is mine going in a straight line? I think mine is turning a bit to the left. Yeah. So you can always look at it and you can see, this front thing does not look straight. What is this front thing anyway? Is this an axle for a car? Yes, it is. What's the straw actually doing, by the way? The straw is acting like a bearing, right? Yeah. And if your car is actually scraping against the floor, you can check it by looking at it like this and seeing if the wheels are touching the floor before the body, that is this part. If this part is higher than the wheels, or upside down, lower than the wheels, then it's going to touch the floor. And you can do it for both sides by just holding it up, you know, in front of your face, not too close. There are skewers in there, they're going to pinch you. Ouch, it's sharp. And just checking to see that, right? Or you could, you know, put your head against the floor, which, well, I don't recommend. So, yeah. Now we're going to talk about the engine of the car. Okay. What do you think the engine's going to be? What do you think? You think the engine is going to be? I don't know. What do you think the engine could be? So, here I have some balloons, okay? And I have another straw. Let me throw these extra bits and balls on the side. There we go. Okay. So, this can be my balloon, my engine. Sorry. And how does that work? What is this? This is a balloon. So let's just connect this balloon to the straw. First of all, let's see if it works. Yeah, I think it works. Now, if I put this on the straw, it's not going to stay here. So I'm going to have to hold it here by doing something. How do you think I'm going to do that? Now, those of you that have this tape, you're going to have a lot more difficulty doing this. So I recommend using something like duct tape, you know, something that's actually pretty rigid. And also the width of the tape will help. If it's really narrow, it'll be harder to do. Because right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to attach the straw to the balloon and create an airtight seal. So I'm just gonna do that for you guys. First I'm gonna cut off some extra tape up here. Really, all I need is just like around this much tape. Okay? And I need to make sure that I attach my balloon properly. And I should be careful that the balloon is closed on all sides before I wrap the tape all the way around. Right, like so. In fact, I didn't even need this much tape, so yeah, let's just cut it off. Right, so here I have a balloon on a straw. Let's see if it works. You can cover the end of the straw and see if the balloon deflates. If it's deflating, well, you can bring it close to your ear and you can hear the sound, whether it's coming out of here or up here, or maybe around this, because sometimes, you know, straws have leaks, so you might want to make sure that you have a good straw. So that is working perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay. So this is the engine of the car. Now we have to attach this engine. So I apologize if I'm going too fast. Okay. The balloon has elastic potential energy, right? So you fill air in the balloon, it tries to push that air out, and that's the energy that we're harnessing, right? So this is what we've just made, and this is what we're going to do to it. Let's attach it to our car. Okay. Now, what is essential is this bit right here. This bit. If this is not there, then that's just going to be quite difficult. And this thing is also kind of important, having the balloon pointing up. You'll see why if you do it wrong. Well, actually, do it differently rather than wrong. So let's get our cars. Let's take our balloon, our engine. Okay. You can keep it here against the cardboard or whatever you want to call it, boxboard, latta, Olpers ke carton, or I don't know. Yeah. And I'm just going to use a piece of tape that I have right now. It's not working, it's not coming off. I'm just going to use some tape. It's really easy to use tape. It's really nice to have good looking tape. Now, the most important thing right now is, should these zigzags be vertical or horizontal? No, I'm kidding. You can put them however you like. So, just make sure that it's attached nicely, right? And it stays there. And there's enough of this pipe back here. I say pipe, I mean straw, that you can actually blow. And this balloon shouldn't be here because, hey, what's going to happen if I fill that up and it's down there? It's going to hit the ground. I don't want that. I want it to be up here, right? Now, those of you that have done this, how about you try filling it up with air, okay? See if the air stays in there. And in fact, let's get ready to race. Who's ready to race? Who wants to race? Okay, you want to race with me? Alright. Get ready in 3, 2, 1, and go. Like, that was cheating. No, you should clean up the space before I do anything. There it goes! Okay. So, that was a lot of fun, right? And you guys can actually race your your little balloon cars with each other. I'm not sure how you're going to do that online, but the making was fun. And if you think about it, the concepts that were covered are actually quite, heavy. So there's the concept of energy conservation, energy conversion, right? You fill this balloon up with potential energy, and then you extract that and turn it into kinetic energy, right? There's a lot of friction. Friction is pretty difficult to explain if you think about it. A lot of people say, oh, that's what keeps you on the ground. Yeah, but why? And what I did once was I asked the students to make the car without the straws. And guess what happened? The car didn't move, right? So you need the straws as bearings. We call them journal bearings, right? And I like to use different colors to make it look nicer and more attractive. There's also a really complex phenomena of sealing. Sealing is it's a full science. Nobody, it's very difficult to get a perfect seal, especially in moving parts. Right? Now, one thing I really like to do is I like to get students to decorate their cars. So that's where stuff like this and this comes in. So I'm going to let everyone decorate their cars. You can use paints if you like. You can use anything you want. So let's say I want to write my name on the side here. Yeah, something like that. I can do that. I can let the kids do that. If I want, I can also color everything. Make it all nice and colorful. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So you can also have streamers. Streamers are a lot of fun. Now let's say that I want to make my balloon car look a little bit more crazy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this streamer. Okay, actually let's just cut this in even thinner. Really nice thin strips. Yeah, you can attach one here. You can attach one to the the straw with some tape. And for this, you can use any old tape actually. And make sure to attach it a bit further back from where you would be blowing into the straw, right? Because you still want to fill the straw, you still want to fill the balloon, and you'll see why we attach this here. So it gets blown around by the air coming out of the balloon, which is a lot of fun. You can have paper mache, if you have access to that. I don't right now, but it would be really fun. And it's even better if these things are really thin things. You can use ribbons, you can use anything. And just like that, you can adapt this cool little project to work with young kids and older kids. With older kids, we'll be talking about advanced concepts. With younger kids, you'll be letting them, decorate stuff and enjoy themselves, express themselves. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that with older kids. I'm just saying that those are the priorities. But we can all modify our priorities anytime. We can let even the older kids enjoy themselves. In fact, they should do that. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that race. Okay, now I want you all to think of some real-world examples, right? Some real-world experiments that you can come up, connect them with your curriculum. So you should also be well aware that these experiments and these little, let's call them fun things to do, should be accessible to everyone. So you should be using household items. So I get that I use some things that were not specifically household, but hey, if you have kids in the home, you probably have crayons, you probably have scissors, you probably have balloons, and yeah, probably tape even. So and everybody drinks water and everybody drinks soda these days. So you probably have some bottle caps lying around, right? So how about if I tell you to make an experiment with something as simple as a plastic bag, a blob of Play-Doh, and some string. I'm sure you all have everything, all that stuff. A plastic bag, some Play-Doh, and some string. You could create a parachute. Yeah, could you create a parachute? Yeah. Literally just take the plastic bag, tie the string to its handles, and tie the blob of Play-Doh to the end of that string and throw it off the roof and watch as it goes down slowly. And you can actually improve on that by using kitchen roll paper, the kitchen tissues. They're really thick and strong, and they're actually square. So if you attach tape to their ends, you could pass some string through the holes that you make through that tape, and you'll actually have a proper broad parachute. And the best thing is that you can have both made together with the same weight, same amount of Play-Doh, and you can throw them both off the roof at the same time to see which one is better. And that's actually a pretty advanced concept, but it's also a fun little experiment to do. Once again, add color. Okay, so feel free to ask any questions at any time, of course. Now, our OUP textbooks contain some real-world experiments, and these are actually really good books. They have some really great experiments that you can do. So they're mostly hands-on experiments. There's lots of fun to be had with these experiments, right? And what I'll do now is Seema, if you're there.
Yeah, Raheel.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this activity. I just wanted to show you something.
Okay.
So I made the balloon car.
Cool.
So it was really nice. Thank you so much, Raheel. We have a lot of questions, and before we start asking you the questions, I have to just make an announcement for those who joined late. There's a link which is pasted in the Q&A section, which is the link to mark your attendance. Once you click on the link, you'll be asked about your details. And when you submit those details, your details will come to us and we will generate a certificate. Your certificates will come to you once the webinar week is over, which will probably be in the first week of July that you'll receive your certificates. So if you've completed your certificate, please hit on the like button so that we know that most of you have submitted your certificate details. So let's start with the questions. Raheel, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
The first question is, just give me a second. How are virtual STEM classrooms different from online learning?
So, online learning actually, as far as I've seen, has mostly been using presentations or using a whiteboard. So if you're using presentations, that's great because suddenly you're using the digital stuff at your disposal and you're actually using it pretty effectively. If you're using a whiteboard on the web and you're sharing your screen, that's not much different from using a blackboard. So you can't really do as much. And I suppose the best way to actually use a whiteboard in those online classes is if you have a pen, and most people don't have that pen. So a virtual STEM classroom is about getting the students to do things and learn by doing. However, when it comes to both the forms of online classrooms that I mentioned, it's all about sitting and listening and possibly asking a few questions in between. I hope that answers your question.
All right. Next question is, can you please differentiate between inquiry method and Socratic method of teaching?
So the Socratic method is a bit more teacher-driven, put it that way. So the teacher is going to ask some questions that will direct the student's method of thinking. The inquiry method is more student-focused and student-oriented. So the student is going to pick questions that they're going to ask about something, and it's usually within a project. So I would say that inquiry-based learning should be done together with project-based learning. However, the Socratic method can be employed at any time within any classroom.
All right. Next question is, what are STEM skills? Can you please elaborate?
STEM skills. Well, I wouldn't say that they're skills. So using STEM or STEAM or STREAM or any different variant of that, it's just a way of learning by doing, and it's literally that simple. So if you do things, you learn better. And the best thing about doing is you fail. And people are always so afraid of failing. You should not be afraid of failing, because when you fail, you've learned more than when you've succeeded, because you've learned, okay, here, this, and this are things that I should not have done. And these are things that I should definitely not have done. Whereas when you succeed, hey, I know how to do this right. And that's it, right? If anything changes anywhere, suddenly that method might not work. So it's just better to learn by failing.
All right. Rahil, the next question is, what is the best way to teach? To teach science or to teach through STEAM or STEM?
The best way to teach? Teaching science. I'm not really sure about the clarity of this question. So teaching through STEM is preferable for many different situations. However, going back to the convention is important occasionally. At least that's my view. I may be wrong in this scenario, but there's definite benefit of learning by doing, as I mentioned earlier, because when you actually see things happening and you try doing things, you will learn a lot more. But when you're actually just reading from a book or you're doing stuff within a class, it's you're just learning what the teacher's telling you. I always say that a lecture is a way of transferring the notes from the teacher's book to your book without passing through anybody's mind. So doing is really important, and I think this question kind of has been answered before.
All right. There are a lot of questions on assessment. So can you help teachers with the best possible way of assessing children online?
Okay. So when it comes to assessment, online assessment is difficult. I totally get that. And online education is difficult as it happens. And when it comes to assessment, you don't want to ask just the questions of everything you've just asked, you've taught in class. You want to make sure that your questions really dig deep into the understanding. So if I teach a student, let's say in math, I'm teaching them how to do algebra, and then I go into a different topic. What I'm going to do is most likely I'm going to close that box of that one topic and put it aside and open this new box, this new topic, and open this up and start exploring this. Whereas when it comes to assessment, you want to assess the understanding by opening multiple boxes together, because if somebody understands something, the best way of figuring that out, that the person is not just rote learning and no ratification is happening, then you want to assess their understanding as opposed to just their ability to repeat what's written or repeat what has been told. So it comes down to the teacher, and it is actually difficult. It takes a lot of hard work to create a good assessment. And I've seen MCQs that are actually so well designed that they actually invoke a lot of thinking from the students. And literally, the best thing I can say is contextualize. Everybody's context is different. Your school's context will be different. Your classroom's context will be different. Even student by student context can be different. So if I say something specific, then it would apply, let's say, in one branch of one school, and it may not apply anywhere else in the world. So the teacher does know better.
All right. Raheel, can we ensure 100% engagement in our virtual classrooms? If yes, how?
100% engagement. Wow. I don't think I was 100% engaged myself. But so you can't ensure 100%, but you can make sure that your students are always there by being excited, being happy. Like you want to teach, you want to show them that I'm excited to teach you guys this thing today. I'm excited about imparting this knowledge, and hey, it's going to imprint on the students. They're going to want to learn because they'll be like, hey, why is he so excited about this? And don't be afraid. Try out new things. Try out different experiments. Try out different strategies. If you fail, you learn too, right? So you can never, say I'm going to get 100% engagement. It's just not possible. Kids are kids, right? So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that.
All right, Raheel, the next question is, we can actually see that you are, you have a background of Minecraft, and the question is that how important are displays in virtual learning, and can you suggest some attractive displays?
Displays? Well, color and movement. That's like one thing I've learned from well, Discovery Channel actually, but yeah. You want to show as much color as possible. So just think about classrooms, okay? And think about offices. Think about your office workspace. Those of you out there who are in kindergarten prep teaching, you've noticed that your classrooms are always so colorful and so bright, and there's so much happening everywhere, right? It's all so attractive. I go into my daughter's class and I'm just like, oh man, I want to be here. It's just so nice. Then I go to an office, and why is the office always white and brown and black? I need more color, it encourages creativity. So use color, use movement, use attractive stuff, right? And obviously make sure that what you're using is relevant. So the reason why there's Minecraft here is because, hey, we were building something, and that's what Minecraft's all about.
How amazing. I think this would be the last question. So how can we motivate students who are not taking interest in STEM? Please guide us and tell us a few tips.
Okay. Not taking interest in STEM. I'm not sure exactly how that would be, because I don't think I've ever seen that myself. If anything, there's possibly some cracks in the educational content, or maybe there's some cracks in the students' understanding of that concept. So when a student doesn't understand the prerequisites, then they're unable to engage in that class, and therefore they are not engaged and they're not interested. But I think STEM is for everyone, and if you want to actually make sure that STEM works for everyone, you can integrate art into it. And there are people who prefer art to engineering, no doubt. So those people will definitely be engaged, and then you can pair them up, because most teamwork is pair work or group work. Some of it is individual work. You can always do individual work, no doubt. But if you pair somebody who's into art up with somebody who's into the whole engineering aspect, then you're going to have a great team, because it's going to be something that works and looks pretty at the same time.
All right. Thank you, Raheel. Thank you very much. We will now be ending our webinar. I just wanted to make a few announcements. I hope you've all completed your attendance. If you want to join our future webinars, please click on the links which are already mentioned in the chat box. We have 2 more webinars to go in this webinar week. If you have made your balloon car, we would like to see it. Please go to our Facebook page, OUP Pakistan. You will find the artwork of today's workshop, and you can put your picture underneath that particular poster. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions for us which have not been answered, you can always write to us on pd.pk@out.com. Please note that we will not be giving the certificates today. We will be giving the certificates to all those who have completed the attendance form and submitted it in the first week of July. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Raheel. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.